2023. My name is Caitlin Ryan, and I am co-chair of the Legislative Committee as well as a board member here at the Cannabis Alliance, where we are dedicated to the advancement of a vital, ethical, equitable, and sustainable cannabis industry. And we are so excited to be bringing that message to Olympia in person this year. Last 2 years have been virtual, but this year, there is nothing like having an actual face-to-face with your legislator, as well as being on campus and networking in person. And so we're so glad that you joined us this year. Before I go too much further, I want to say a big thank you to Jill Walker for scheduling all of these meetings and organizing our lobby day. Everybody's been a little bit overwhelmed with the return to in-person, and Jill has been able to move through that with the legislators and their LAs and make sure that you all have excellent meetings. And we're really looking forward to carrying our message. And thank you so much for participating. It really does make a difference when we have a day like today to talk about our legislative priorities as constituents with our legislators. So thank you very much. Everything I go over today, we'll go over again Tuesday morning. So if you have any questions along the way, bring those with you and we'll be able to address them there. I'm going to talk about some tips and some tricks, some expectations, and then we'll go through the legislative packet so that you know exactly what's in there and you can bring any questions you have about those along the way as well. If you participated in our virtual lobby days, you will know that we had a virtual Pritchard cafeteria. However, this year, we are actually going to be gathering in the real Pritchard cafeteria. So once we get onto campus, after we've done our off-campus training Tuesday morning, you will sort of try and point out where Pritchard is, but it is directly across the way from the Capitol building. You have a map that you can reference there, but that will be your home base. It's a place you can come check in between meetings, see how other groups are doing, check in, find out if there are particular strategies that are working, or maybe vent if you've had a challenging meeting with somebody. Whatever the case is, Jill will be there all day, as well as myself and Al and Lara will be checking in regularly if you need any extra support while we're there. All right, let's dig into it. So you have been assigned a group, and that group is with folks who are in general in the same legislative district or a combination of two legislative districts together. What that means is when you go in and you talk to your legislator, I recommend that you have whoever the constituent is do the introductions and start. It really does matter to the legislators whether or not they are talking to constituents. And so if you are in a mixed group, make sure that the constituent is the one that leads the opening there and introduces themselves as the constituent. Please make sure you go to your meeting room 15 minutes before. You should be there 15 minutes before. This year, for security reasons, you can't just go directly to the legislator's office. There are guards at the hallways, and you have to have an appointment to get past the guard and into the hallway. So make sure you allow for enough time for that. Sometimes it means talking to the page or the guard, letting them know when your meeting is. Then they go to the office, which may not be particularly close, confirm that that's the case. Then they come back and get you. So it can be a bit of a process to actually get into the legislator's office. So please make sure you allow enough time for that. We do not want to be late. Legislators are in a very, very tight schedule. And so we want to make sure that we are demonstrating professionalism by respecting their time and being on time. If not, hopefully couple minutes early to their actual office. Once you are in there, make sure that you designate a timekeeper. You only have 15 minutes and you've got a lot to cover. And it's really important that the legislator is not the one who reminds you that your time is up. So make sure that you've got somebody keeping an eye on that and keeping everything on track, and that you are the one who at the 15 minutes says, I believe we're at the end of our 15 minutes. If you have any more questions, you can reach out, etc. The legislator may choose to extend that time, and that is wonderful if that happens, but do not expect that to be the case. And certainly don't go over, and please don't make them be the one to end the meeting. Having said all of that, you may be meeting with your legislator or with a legislative assistant. Either one is fantastic. And honestly, sometimes it's even better to meet with a legislative assistant. If you educate them well, sometimes they can end up being a good advocate on our behalf to their legislator. So they're the ones that are a part of the everyday today, and a lot of times are in charge of what the legislator's attention gets pointed towards. So if you are able to get that legislative assistant on our side, sometimes that can actually be better than having that face-to-face with the legislator themselves. Before the day starts, go ahead and exchange phone numbers with your team. That way you'll be able to keep track of each other on campus. If you end up having a long break and split up, this is a good way to just make sure you are able to keep track of each other as you move around campus. Please do not join a meeting that you are not scheduled to be in. Again, security is pretty tight. The legislators know who exactly is going to be in that meeting, and an unexpected addition makes everybody a little bit uncomfortable and makes us look like we're not exactly professional. So please only go to the meetings that you're scheduled to go to unless there is some really big grand reason. And if that is the case, please let Jill know so that she's apprised of what's going on, just in case there are further questions on down the line. In your teams, you have a team leader. This is somebody who is experienced and has done this before. And so they can be a great resource. I find that it usually takes about one meeting to kind of get the flow dialed in about who's going to talk about what issue and passing off to one another, et cetera. You're just going to have to feel it out. One thing I might recommend is ahead of time, decide who's going to talk about what issue. And then that way you can kind of move through things really quickly. Again, you only have 15 minutes and we have 6 pieces of priority legislation. So if you kind of do the math on that, you might realize you've only got like 3 minutes to give the spiel. These types of meetings, the legislators and their legislative assistants are well practiced. They may stop you and ask questions, which is great. If by some odd chance you discover that it's challenging to make conversation, a great way to get things going is always to ask the legislator what they think. Ask them questions. How do they feel about the legislation? What are their thoughts on the particular topic that you're interested in getting their thoughts on, which is, again, a great way to get them engaged. And then it also helps us know what are the angles as we're talking about these and our bills are moving through the legislature. When you complete your meeting, there is a form to fill out for each team member, for each legislator. It's not very long. We'd love for you to fill it out as soon as possible after you complete the meeting so that everything is fresh in your mind. We do review all of those, and that's where you can let us know if somebody has some additional questions or some follow-up that we need to do, if there was a particularly challenging conversation or an interesting comment that was made that might be helpful to us moving forward. Politics is politics, so sometimes even the small details can help move it forward. So the sooner you do that, the more fresh it will be, and really completing those does help us in our efforts as the session continues to move forward. And be each other's resource. Quite a few of you have done this now a couple of times, both virtually and in person, and this is a good time to share in community. And if you find that you have a particular way of talking about a topic that seems to be pretty compelling, share that with the group. Or sometimes if you got a funny story about not an awesome exchange, that can help everybody relax and know that it happens to everybody, including legislators. And the best way to move forward is just with a little bit of grace and understanding, right? So let's see, having said all of that, when you are leaving your meeting, go ahead and leave your contact information. If you have business cards to bring along, you can go ahead and do that. A few years back, the legislature went paperless. They're fine about business cards, but you can also, what we highly recommend is sending a follow-up email after you leave to the legislative assistant and the legislator to say thank you for your time with them and that you're available for any questions. A lot of the time, like we said, these meetings go pretty fast and furious, and questions may not bubble up until a little bit afterwards. So if you are available, you are the face that they saw. And so it's a great way to be a resource. Even still, 10 years after legalization, our biggest challenge in the legislature is always education. And so the more we can be a resource for our lawmakers, I think the more likely it'll be that we have continued change towards more sensible legislation in Olympia. And then finally, make sure that they are aware of our reception. We'll be having a reception at 6 p.m. They have that information in the email, but just again, a personal invitation to say, hey, we'd love to see you. This reception is for both legislators and legislative assistants. We'll have refreshments and cocktails. And if you can entice them on out, that will be great. It's always a good opportunity to have a little bit more of a relaxed conversation that's not on such a fast timer. And again, reminding them that day of really sometimes helps. A lot of times we get answered, somebody will say, oh, right. I completely forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. So you are that last invitation to get people out to our reception. All right. Well, I think I covered just about all of it. We look forward to seeing you Tuesday morning, where we'll go over a lot of this again. You can ask some questions. Couple of small little notes. It's probably been a while since you've been out and about for an entire day. So a couple of small reminders: bring a water bottle, wear comfortable shoes. Backpacks are totally acceptable if you need something to just sort of carry your stuff around. And we look forward to having a great lobby day. Have fun, enjoy. We've got a lot of great things to talk about, and our legislators are looking forward to hearing from their constituents. All right, and now we will go ahead and move on to our packet. Hi, so let's go ahead and go through our packet here. So a few years back, Olympia decided to go paperless, which is great for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is we can provide them with fairly dynamic content. The way I'm recording this, I can't do all the clickables, but I'll show you where they're at just so that you have the opportunity to point those out to your legislators. It's allowed us to pack a lot of information into these 12 pages. And as we were saying earlier, we have 6 pieces of priority legislation, and 15 minutes is not a lot of time to get through them. So this packet is what is going to be your backup, so that there's a lot of good information in here for your legislators. They have received this via email ahead of time, so they may also reference it and ask you questions. So make sure that you take the time to look through and see in detail everything that's there. But my goal here is to at least give you the highlights and the things that are really important to know. So 4 of these pieces of legislation are ones that we've been working on for a while and actually are feeling really good about passing. A few of them, if not maybe all 4, so far so good, this legislative session. I think the easiest one to start talking about always is removing the excise tax for patients on the registry purchasing DOH compliant product. We enjoy broad bipartisan support on this one and continues to gain support as the years go on. This one we expect to pass this year. And like I said, it's an easy one to start talking about. That usually then gives an opportunity to transition into arrest protection for patients. A lot of times our biggest challenge is that legislators don't understand that this isn't already a thing. And so frequently it can just be another really easy, quick one to talk about as you're going over the priority legislation. Now, home grow is one that they will be familiar with. I know it's one that you are familiar with. My recommendation is that you focus on conversations around normalization and highlight the fact that we're one of the only adult use states that does not have home grow. And not only that, it is a felony here, which is a really steep penalty in a state where you can also just go buy it at the store. So home grow is, you may field some questions. Some of our more conservative representatives, this one tends to be the one that gives them the most heartburn. But if, again, you can focus on the parts of the bill around things like it can't be visible, it can't be smelled, and again, the plant itself really not psychoactive, so concerns around youth access can easily be addressed there. Another one we've been working on for a while and will be the belle of the ball for this week, and that is the establishing a Cannabis Research Commission. We've got a hearing in Regulated Substances and Gaming on Monday at 1:30, and then the companion bill is going to be heard at 8 a.m. Thursday morning in the Senate. It's fully dialed in now. In the leave behind, the one sheet, there's an assessment calculator. By and large, the opposition that we hear to this has a lot to do with larger organizations that can fund their own research and really just don't want the opportunity for the smaller guys to have access to the same type of research. And then a concern that the assessment is going to be yet another cost, which is why we've included an assessment calculator so that folks can take a look at really how small that assessment is, and then the value that giving it brings. Now, like I said, in this program, I can't do the clicking as we go through, but I'll show you anything that's underlined can be clicked. Each of these takes you to the issue one page, the issue brief. And then all of these here take you directly to the bill itself. We heard a lot, especially from legislative assistants, that access directly to each bill was really helpful for them. So we've done that in a couple of places so that they never have to page back to something. If the bill number is there, they can click directly through to it. So that first page is just a quick reference. Here on page 2, again, are each of those pieces of legislation, priority legislation, and talking points. I went over the 4 that we've had before, but let's also talk about the 2 new ones this year. And that is the ability to sell cannabis waste. The Sustainability Committee has been working on this one for quite some time, and we're excited that it already has an executive session scheduled, I believe this week. And so this one's really easy to talk about. Again, there's a 1 page here, leaning heavily on not wanting to put more waste into the waste stream. And this is all product that could be sold for composting, but also as a potential another avenue stream for producer processors. And then the most common sense, easiest one is the federal trigger bill, the Interstate Commerce Trigger Bill. So we're the only state now on the coast. California and Oregon have both passed versions of this bill. And what I have noticed with legislators is basically explaining to them that if the federal government went live with federal legalization, say in the summertime, it could be nearly a year plus before Washington is able to participate in that interstate commerce, leaving us far behind Oregon and California, which is not something we would recover easily from. And so something like this, especially as we get closer, is really, really important. It doesn't cost anything and it doesn't do anything until the federal government acts. So it's a pretty easy one for legislators to get behind. So those are our 6 pieces of priority legislation. And then we have 3 pages of all of the other cannabis legislation that's out there with a handy guide. Again, our 6 priorities are there at the front, taking to talking points and the individual issue briefs. And then from there on, we move through the list of items that we support. Are green. This is called a stoplight reference. And so those are green. Again, each bill is linked directly so that the legislator or the legislative assistant can go straight to the bill language if they have any thoughts or questions. We have a good amount of neutral bills. For the most part, what these bills are ones that the idea is good, but maybe the bill itself needs a little bit more work. In these situations here, the approach we would like to request from you is you can be clear with the legislator that the organization doesn't have a particular stance. However, then clearly indicate that you were speaking for yourself and then give them your opinion. That's really what they would like to hear anyways, for the most part. And again, we just ask that you differentiate between what is your individual opinion versus what is the opinion of the organization, which is speaking for everybody within it. And beyond that, we trust you to be intelligent. And all of these ones that are yellow, it's because, like I said, either our membership was pretty well split. For example, out-of-state ownership would be one of those. However, others like the solid waste management, the idea is great. There's lots of important things in there, but it holds cannabis to a completely different standard that we would not be able to live up to because of the product stream for packaging. And we just would need, we're requesting that we be treated exactly the same as all other businesses, and that we're happy to meet those standards moving forward. And yes, hooray on our recycling program. It would be great for us. And then finally, we have only identified 2 bills that we are fully against this year, and those are the high potency bills, the 1641 and 1642. I'm going to pause here for a minute to talk about strategy when speaking about these bills. We're in a very challenging position because we know that these bills are could be disastrous to our industry. And we know that the ideas being asserted as the foundation for these bills are not true, despite the proponents saying that these claims are being backed by science. We know that the science doesn't bear out, and I'll show you that in the issue brief. We've got some studies to help you make that case. However, there are certainly some truly tragic stories that we have heard in testimony. There is a deep concern for young people, in particular, potentially harming themselves through overuse. And that is not something anybody in the industry wants to see either. We are deeply compassionate towards folks, and especially many of us work as patients, with patients, for medical use of cannabis, and fully understand that these families who are speaking have been through something traumatic and tragic, and we don't want to minimize that in any way. And the best approach always is to see if we can find where we overlap and common ground. So some areas that are positive are things around education, warnings, possibly, and maybe even a tax structure. When we did our member survey, that seemed like something folks might be open to. Neither of the 2 bills that propose a tax structure right now make any kind of sense to us as something that the legislature should move forward on. However, we think that possibly putting together a work group or a task force to again re-examine taxation by potency is a conversation we'd be willing to participate in. And so giving as much as we can, I think, will be beneficial in that conversation. Okay, and then we have 7 individual issue briefs. So beginning with the Washington State Cannabis Research Commission, there's a interesting JLARC study right here that you can click through to the full study, but there's a great quote. They just completed it about research commissions, or about commodities commissions, and how just everybody who has a commission is really excited to have that. Some of the potential benefits, a chart that you can click on to make bigger, the FAQs, a really nice promotional video, and then an assessment calculator, and then of course the link to the bills directly. All of those things are clickable in the form that you have. I encourage you to go through and just start poking things, see what you find. Concerning the home cultivation of cannabis, this is a link to an interactive map. This is the what's in the bill listed here, but then this is also the report from the legislature itself on what's there. There is a link here to the study that we commissioned a couple of years back on home grow, and some of the really important findings in there, and again, a direct link to the bill itself. removing the excise tax, a direct link to the bill, some of the really important things that can happen here, a little bit of narrative, and then a link through to our most recent webinar Wednesday on the medical system and how really critical passing this bill is if we expect to continue to have a medical system here in Washington State. Arrest protection, pretty straightforward on this one. There honestly is not a lot to click through because, again, it's a really small bill that attends to a thing that most people already believe have been taken care of. So there is, though, some really good information and can help you formulate your talking points as you prepare for your meetings with your legislators. Then cannabis waste. This one's a new one. Here we have a graph regarding testing of THC in stock stems and fan leaves, and then a little bit about what that regulation is, what has to happen right now in terms of the grinding and diluting by 50% before it can be composted or put into the landfill, a link to the WAC. This is a link to our project of reducing bag thickness and what a huge impact such a small thing did, and how this also, while pretty simple, can have a big impact on our waste stream out of the industry. Then the interstate commerce bill, there's the link to both of those. It's the same interactive map as before, just maybe a little bit bigger. And in the context of interstate commerce, a little bit of discussion about multi-state operations and how that has already gotten up and running and how really critical it would be for us if we were not able to participate in a federal market, in the national market, once the federal government decided to move forward with that. And then finally, we do have an anti-issue brief, and that is for the 2 potency limit bills. There's a lot of information here, not the least of which is this really important study that came out a week before these bills dropped, saying that there is no significant increase in rates of psychosis-related health outcomes in cannabis legalization. That is clickable to the actual article itself, which is really important. Right here, we've got a couple of ideas that we are willing to participate and join in with. Also, there has already been an exploration of taxation by potency, a feasibility study. So there's a quote here from that, as well as the actual direct link to that report. Then a little bit about packaging here and container, because the language in the bill doesn't say packaging, it says actually on the container. You can point out that this here is written in 10-point font, along with some of the required labeling that would all need to fit on this container. And then you can see that is going to be a bit of a challenge. And then when you click through here, it is a what's in the bill summary, so that folks can see exactly what's going on there. If you have any questions, please bring them with you. We'll have some time to talk through these issues, go over all of this again. And like I said, take a few minutes and just start poking these and see where all of the links go through to. We got a lot of great feedback last year on the version from last year. And so we look forward to you being stocked with all of the resources you need to have intelligent conversations. But of course, the most important resource is your already intelligent brain. So thank you so much for using it with us today. I hope you have a great time on the Hill, and look forward to spending the day.